Hello, and welcome to the Golden Hour podcast with your amazing host, Anna Gold. We hope you enjoy the conversation and learn something new. We have an amazing show planned for you today, and who knows, we might play a game or two. Ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, here she is, the amazing Anna Gold.
Welcome to the Golden Hour, everyone. I'm Anna Gold, and I have here with me Marissa Chastain.
Hey, hello.
Marissa is a comedian, an improv queen, and tell us more about yourself, please. When did you get started in the entertainment industry?
Oh, man. Well, I knew I wanted to be an entertainer pretty early on when I was like 6 years old.
Oh, really?
Yep. I was in a dance show, and almost everybody else in the number got stage fright, and I pulled this one guy up on stage with me, and I did everybody's role.
What?
I loved it. I was just like, this is it. This is so much fun. And then my parents put me in like little theater classes, and I always got to I went into like circus school for a moment.
Oh, wow.
And
what was circus school like?
Circus school, I was terrible. There was nothing that I was good at. I couldn't do a cartwheel, still can't. Couldn't juggle, still can't. Couldn't do the splits. What my activity kind of ended up being at the end of the year is I rode my dad's rollerblades across the stage. Like nice. At one moment I was like on one foot with them in these like massive shoes. I'm like a little 7-year-old.
Wow, I'm impressed that you could do that without falling over.
Me too. It was desperation to look cool.
And entertain.
Yeah, and to entertain because I couldn't do anything else. And then I always lucked out with the schools that I was at had really good theater programs where they would always put up like at least one, if not 3 shows for the school year.
Oh, wow.
And so I just got to the reps of being able to be like part of an ensemble, and I always just loved it. And then I ended up going to school, for the theater arts in Canada.
And you were raised in Europe, weren't you?
Yes. So circus school actually happened in Berlin.
Wow.
I think it was Berlin or Stuttgart, but I think it was Berlin that I did that one. And
wait, does that mean that you speak German?
Yeah, I know. I speak a good. I speak like a 7-year-old for German. Like I can order kids' food. I know colors. I know numbers.
Because you were 7 when you were there.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I was there. Yes, yeah, from like 7 to like 11.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's so neat. That's something I didn't know about you. Like, I never would have guessed that you were born and mostly raised in Europe.
Yeah. I was born in Italy, in Vicenza, right outside of Venice.
Wow.
And then I'm an Army brat, so that's why I went to a different school every year, which also gave me like different perspective. Mm-hmm. And I always went to different parts of the country in a sense. So Germany felt like the most stable because I kind of stayed in the same country, even though every year I went to a different school and to a different section. Mm-hmm. So it's like there was Italy, and then we went to Utah, but it was a top secret military base out in the middle of the desert.
Wow.
And I know. And so it's not reality. It's not a really real place that people have lived. They would import water to us.
Oh.
Like it is, there was probably maybe 100 people that lived out there all together, so a small family. Yeah.
So you got to know everyone probably.
A little, yeah. It was weird because it was like I was a kid at the time, and I realized like I had a lot of freedom. Like I remember being able to run in and out of. They set up these trailers out there, and they set the trailers up. They put all the kids of certain ages next to each other.
Oh,
so fun!
Yeah.
And I would be all of us would just run in and out of our houses. There would be a playground set up for us. My parents never had to worry about someone kidnapping us or snatching us. So we never ever had to say even like where we were going. There was nowhere to go. It's a desert and one playground. So there was a lot of freedom there, which was really fun as a kid.
Yeah.
To be so free.
That is nice.
And then we went over to Germany right after the Berlin Wall fell.
Oh.
And so I got to see the aftermath of that. And we were like in Stuttgart and Heidelberg and Berlin.
Where is I
Stuttgart.
can't say that.
It's like east or southern Germany, central southwest-ish. Yeah. And then Berlin's like up here and Heidelberg's over here. Yeah. So we kind of did a lot of it. And so it was nice to be like, even though we moved a lot in Germany, at least it was like the same familiar culture. And Berlin was fun because that's where I was around more Americans.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there would be other Americans there.
Yeah. Or I got to hang out more with the military kids.
Oh.
Because in the other places, my parents wanted me to have the culture.
Oh.
Yeah. So I lived off base.
And so what brought you to this? So you're born and raised in Europe, so to speak. When did you come to America?
Came to America in 7th grade, and we went from Berlin to Hinesville, Georgia.
Oh.
Exactly. It's like, it was actually between Saudi Arabia and Georgia, but because I was becoming a teenage, female, teenage woman, my dad was like, I can't ask her to go to Saudi Arabia and do that. And I had been wanting to come back to be in the United States because I always knew I wanted to be in entertainment.
Oh, cool.
And the United States, that to me was always the number one export that came from this country.
Yeah. Hollywood is good.
Yes.
Hollywood is big.
And I always thought Hollywood, or New York. And never in my life did I ever consider the southern states. Very shocked. Also, the Bible Belt was alarming. Because
how so?
Well, Germany, I would say, is kind of atheist in a sense, or like we have there's a lot of churches there. A lot of the old churches get kings, but I feel like religion really played its part in Europe, and now people are like, they went through the Renaissance of religion, and now they're more just like no on it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I felt that way there. I don't know, but also I grew up like. I didn't grow up religious, so coming to the United States and being in the Bible Belt where...
It must have been a shock.
It was a shock. Like, I didn't think people believed in the Bible. I just assumed it was a book, that people could read and talk about, like fables and morals and like... I don't know. But it definitely didn't dawn to me that it was like a real thing. And then I loved the stories, and we did a couple of like, what's it called? When you do stuff in the summertime with the churches.
Summer vacation Bible school?
Yes. And I had fun with those. I met people with that.
Those are fun with the crafts and all the stories, and everything is so real and relevant. And
it
is a lot of fun.
I loved it. And then we went to Florida for high school, which I thought great place for high school. I often joke that if we would have been out in that top secret military base in Utah, as a high schooler, I would have been bored out of my mind.
I'm sure.
So I'm glad that those were like reversed, that I was like a young 6-year-old out there in the desert, and as a teenager I was on the beach.
Yeah. That's perfect.
And MTV Spring Break was like a big thing then, and we were like 2 hours away from that. My friend, her dad lived there, and so we'd go visit on the weekend. And then I went to college up in Canada, because I never stopped moving. And then one of my good friends, Juliana in Canada, got U.S. citizenship. She was like, do you want to move to Chicago? And I said, you don't want to do New York or L.A.? I keep trying to get there. And she goes, let's do Chicago just for 1 year. I've been here for 15.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
So the last time I saw you before today in 2023, the last time I saw you was in 2015 when we filmed a Red Robin commercial together.
Yes.
And it was so much fun. And I think that they did such a good job. I loved the chemistry on the set, and I still show that to people.
Yeah.
What have you done since 2015?
So it was June of 2015, actually, that I became a comedian.
Oh, like you mean stand-up?
More like sketch comedy.
Okay.
And I started doing improv because I became a yoga teacher in 2014. And one of my favorite quotes is, find comfort in the discomfort. It's all about kind of getting out of your comfort zone and being okay with it.
Is that a yoga quote or just...
I think so. It's one I used in my yoga classes a lot,
That's
like
cool.
when you're holding a high crescent lunge and it's hard to breathe. You just sympathize with your brain and you go, yes, this is difficult, but it won't kill me. And then it becomes lighter. One of my students had said, when was the last time you got out of your comfort zone? And I thought, well, it's been like 8 months. And I thought, I'm going to go do an improv class at Second City just because the first thing I was ever cast in Chicago was an improv troupe. I didn't know improv at all. I mean, I look back at it and I see all the simple games that we were playing, like yes and, but I had no foundation of it. And I was approaching it as an actor, being like, okay, we're making stuff up, but when are we really going to get to the work? Not realizing that that was it, the improv.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up quitting that show, and I did like 3 of the improv shows. That moment in my life, I was like, I'm not a comedian. That's not what I am. So come 2015, I was like, oh, well, I'll get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to sign up for an improv class. I learned a lot. I still didn't very much enjoy it that much. But my friend, who's an actor, he heard that I was doing Second City, and he says, have you heard of this show called Monday Night Live at IO Theater?
That's a nice name.
It's beautiful. You get 14 hours essentially to put up a show. And this incredible director, Michael McCarthy, put it together. He does all these writing classes here in Chicago, and he thinks it's important for writers to see their work put up on stage.
Oh, yeah.
And
it sure helps.
It helps because then you see when the audience laughs, so valuable.
You could be like, as a writer, oh, that was much better on paper than it is performed,
Yeah.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, something can completely surprise you.
So much. Yeah, where you're like, oh, I didn't even think that was a joke there.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, why didn't they laugh? Oh, it's because I didn't set it up with the right exposition, so they didn't realize that this was set in the year 1970, you know? I got in that show, and instantly that night I called my parents saying, oh, I love sketch comedy. And I just remember it was like June 12th, 2015. It changed the whole course of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what did you do from there? So you were studying improv at Improv Olympic?
I only did improv for actors program at Second City, which was just 8 weeks. And then I got cast in Monday Night Live at IO Theater.
Oh.
And so Chicago has 3 really big for sketch comedy places, and that would be Second City, IO Theater, and then the Annoyance Theater. That's where you learn improv, and you can do sketch and weird characters, not the stand-up side.
And now you have your own show, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, I do. But I did IO for quite some time, and I didn't realize that I liked improv either for a while. It really was just sketch, and then eventually Comedy Shrine hired me for improv, and now I do improv at the Annoyance Theater on their house team, Fire and Beer.
So it sounds like you are naturally good at it. Something that you weren't really trying for, but it just happened.
That's what happened. In 2015, it's like I got a Monday Night Live, and then 8 weeks later, they had another casting call for it, and the director looked at me and said, you don't have to audition. You're in. And from that day on, I did every single show he did up until the pandemic when he passed away.
Oh,
so
sorry for your loss. Like,
I know he's a lot of people too know Michael McCarthy, but like he really he's such a big influence, I think, in the Chicago scene here, and he gave so many writers and actors the opportunity to like work their craft. And so like I remember I was like 3 years in on it, and I was like, oh yeah, Steppenwolf, a Red Orchid Theater, because a Red Orchid Theater reached out to me. And I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, I completely forgot that I ever was pursuing that theater side, because comedy just took me for a whirlwind, and I started doing then the stand-up and the improv and the sketch.
It's like a love affair. You just get swept away.
And like things that happened, like I think it was like 2016, I got into the Kenan Thompson Road to New York City. I think 2017, I got to perform at Caroline's on Broadway in New York City.
That's great. What was the Kenan Thompson
Kenan
thing?
Thompson. It's called Road to New York City, and he does this competition every year, and they go to all the places, LA, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, Virginia, and they find the top 2 comedians in all the regions. And Kenan started doing this because he says he knows so many really funny people that never make it. And eventually they get burnt out because no one sees their talent. And he wanted to create a platform for those comedians to be able to perform in a big place like Caroline's on Broadway, the Improv out there in Los Angeles, Comedy Store, things like that, so that when we perform there, and I still think about it, but when we perform there, you know, we can bottle it up essentially, like, yes, we did do it. Someone acknowledged our greatness. And when we feel like we're never going to make it, we can remember those moments, being like, Kenan believed in me. All I have to do is just keep going.
Yes.
And like, you know, and I thought that's so beautiful, you know.
That's such a great opportunity.
I know.
So that was, did you say in 2018?
I know, I think that was 17. It could have been 17, 18. I did it for two years in a row, 2 or 3 years in a row.
Oh.
I can't remember because I think the pandemic interfered with the third year.
Blasted.
I know that pandemic, but yeah, I got to perform, I think, twice out in Los Angeles and once in New York.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So, like, was 1 year in LA, then the next in New York, and then back to LA kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So much fun. Like, just a dream. And I always thought, like, I would love to be on a Broadway, like, show. Like, I think that is, like, the dream. So the fact that I made it into the comedy club on Broadway was so telling, where I went, okay, universe. Like, you're just plopping these things, into my space. And how I got Kenan Thompson is... I was telling you how I did 100 stand-up shows in 1 year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and
that's really neat.
Zanies was doing a thing where they were celebrating their 40th anniversary, and they were doing 40 comics, all got 1 minute. Comedy, and it was so they got 40 comics to come in, and I got on there to do my 1 minute. Thank you.
Good job.
And I went, did it, and I was still very new, essentially, to the scene, and I didn't realize that there was this whole line of people talking to the booking agent up against the wall. I don't know what I thought that was, but this one comedian that I saw at all these like open mics, Anthony Bonazzo, he's phenomenal. He'll blow up.
I feel like I've heard his name.
So fun. There's so much talent in Chicago.
There
but
is.
He was over on the side, and I had to almost go fangirl him and just be like, "You're so good. I see you at all these mics. You're amazing." And I was telling him about how I love sketch comedy, but I was doing the stand up, and he's the one that told me about the Kenan Thompson thing. And he said, "You should probably submit for that."
That's nice.
If he had never told me about it, like I got in, I think the last day of submissions.
Did you have to send in a tape?
I did. I had to send a tape, and thankfully I had just enough, because at the time the guy I was dating, bless his heart, he videotaped all my sets and all my things. And I remember coming home going, I got to submit to this, and I needed a tape. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I don't do well with technology. I'm not that smart with it. I just don't. I want real human interactions.
Me too. I'd rather go to an in-person audition than send out a tape to some random. It's like it just goes into the void, and you don't know who sees it or who doesn't see it.
It's setting up the camera angle, setting up the lighting, all of it it feels so fake and weird.
And then you're not performing for anyone. Well, you are technically, but they're not there.
Yes.
It's
so challenging.
Yeah. I can really tell you, I've had enough of that. I can't wait to go back into a casting office.
Same.
Yes.
But I was lucky that the guy I was dating at the time knew technology. And he edited a 5-minute video. That's all they needed. And then thankfully they were like, yes, can you come out to LA? And it was like a week or 2 or something. And I was like, I can. And I did it.
That's awesome. And now, so post-pandemic, you have your own show.
Yeah.
And can you tell us what your group is called and what you call your show?
Yes. So I do a sketch comedy show every Friday night now for 2 years, consistently, called Bye Bye Liver. It's a drinking sketch comedy show. It's so fun.
That sounds like fun, like audience participation.
Yes. And we'll go out in the audience. We play these really fun drinking games, like Name That Emoji, where we'll show up a bunch of emojis and we're like, what do you think that's trying to say?
That's great.
It's so much fun. And then we even got to perform at the Boom Chicago Comedy Festival in Amsterdam. So we got to go out there and perform, which I absolutely loved.
Oh, when was this?
That's in July. So we've done it in July now.
Cool.
And
every year?
So far, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Super.
So we've done 2 years now, which has been real fun.
So 2022 and 2023?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So fun.
And what's next for you guys? Like, where do you want to be, or where do you see yourself I don't know, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, I think we've been talking about doing Edinburgh, the big fringe festival out there.
In Scotland?
Yes, so that would be like really fun to be on.
Yeah.
Me and my comedy partner who we produce the Bye Bye Liver show, we have our own 2-woman show called Trash Panda.
Nice.
And that we do a live 2-woman show at the Annoyance Theater usually. And then we film those sketches after we've worked them out in front of an audience. And then those film sketches make up a full episode, and that we've been submitting through the film circuit, and we've won 5 festivals so far this past year for 2023.
That is great.
Yeah, and we're hoping to start filming our second episode next year. It is already written. We've tested it out in front of an audience. We're going to retest out some of the work come January, again, over at the Annoyance. And then we have another show after that. And ideally, I love Chicago to be on the map. More on the map. I think we are the training ground for comedy. It's wild that all of our talent ends up going off to New York and Los Angeles. Why don't we just keep it here?
I always wondered why we don't have sitcoms here. Because there is so much funny in Chicago, right? So you have this breeding ground, this training ground of these great comedians. And then why don't we have really funny shows? Like the old CW shows or something like New Girl, or why is that not here?
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see next.
I'd love more competition for Saturday Night Live. Like, you remember when we used to have Mad TV and In Living Color?
Oh, gosh.
I was like, why don't we go back to that? I think sketch comedy is just so... I think it's good for our attention spans because they are short, so I still think it works well.
It does. It works online. It works in person.
It's so great. And so I would love something like In Living Color to come on back, but be here in Chicago because we have so many great diverse neighborhoods
we do have,
that we can talk about. And
you're right, we do. And we do have a lot of studios and studio space, like the CineSpace.
Yes.
We could.
Yes, it is possible, but all the Dick Wolf films are being done at the CineSpace.
We need to knock on his door and say, let us in.
Yeah,
we just want to do some comedy.
Can we give him a little bit more laughter?
Yes. High five.
Yes.
I'm with you on that, sister. Completely, I am.
I think there's another studio here opening up, like a CineSpace.
I heard that. Yeah. What's it called?
I don't remember.
So CineSpace is what we have now, right?
Yes.
And then I heard about another studio too, which I want to get in on that.
And I was like, oh, please let that mean that other shows will be happening here. Because again, there's so much, and Chicago is the best, I think, for having the improv, the stand-up, and sketch. I don't see that all the time at LA or in New York,
You're right.
And we get to test things out every day and for free. I feel like in LA, it was like you pay to play a lot.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yikes, I wouldn't want to pay to be on stage. They should be paying me because I bring people in.
Yes.
That's really silly.
Yes. But
I don't know who thought of that.
Horrible. But that's what they do. I remember doing that even at Flappers in LA, where it's like you have to buy something from the bar. They give you a little ticket, like a raffle ticket. One half goes in a pitcher and the other half you keep on your own. And then during the open mic, essentially, they pull it on out. And it's that's who gets to go up next. And it always bothered me because I'm like, well, now I don't know where I am in this list. So I don't know if I should be booked into another show. You're preventing me from doing multiple shows in a night.
Yeah.
And you may never even pull mine, which means now I sat here for 2 hours, 3 hours.
And bought a drink or whatever.
And it's the more you buy, the more tickets you get to put in there in a sense. But it's I just want to work 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all you get sometimes. Sometimes it's 4 minutes. And I feel like Chicago gives you the space to be able to work it, which makes, I think, greater talent.
Yeah, that's true. They hone it more. They encourage it more.
Yeah.
And now, since you're a funny girl,
yes,
at the end of each episode, we play trivia. And I thought maybe the funniest thing I could give you would be Saturday Night Live trivia.
I love me some SNL, yes.
Yes. My boyfriend came up with this, so thank you, Ed. So there are 5 questions.
All right, go for it.
Let's see the best you can do, the best of 5. So the first question is, in which year did Saturday Night Live first air?
Oh, I believe Lily Tomlin was the first person.
I think you're right. Wasn't she the first hostess?
She was like the first host. And didn't they have like a 40th reunion? Let me think about this.
So.
X amount of years ago. Let's see. Maybe in 2017. So 8, 9, 20, I'm going to say they started 46 years ago.
So which year is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I can't do the math like that. What would 46 years ago? So 84, 70, 74.
You're so very close. 1975.
Oh,
Very
wow.
close. Very, very close.
That's incredible.
Yeah, good job, though.
Thank you.
It, within
there. You know, the concept came out in 74, 75 it aired.
It did.
Post-production.
Yeah, so you got the original thought of Saturday Night Live.
Wow, I can't believe that's amazing.
Well, good job, and you're welcome.
Hire me. Hire me, Lauren Michaels.
She's funny. She really is. So the next question is, Jim Carrey auditioned for Saturday Night Live, but he did not get the job.
Yep.
To which show did he go instead?
Oh, In Living Color.
Yeah.
So good.
In Living Color.
So good. And that's the show I would want to be a part of. And if you watch In Living Color today, it still stands.
Yeah.
And usually sketch comedy doesn't age so well because it is a lot of pop culture, what's happening there with the times. But their stuff was so relevant with like,
Homie, don't say that.
Yes, I love Homie the Clown. So good. I loved it so much.
I remember my dad used to be so strict on television, what I wore, everything, right? Yeah. But for some strange reason, he would always let me watch that show no matter what was on it.
It was so good.
And I think it's because he likes the show, so he's like, come on now. Don't tell your mom.
It was so good. And when Jim Carrey actually auditioned for SNL, one of the characters he came on in with was like a T-Rex Elvis. I think it was. He put his hands inside of his shirt and was like, oh. And that was like his bit. It was I've seen the audition for it. And I just remember being like, gosh, I can't believe they didn't cast him.
And neither can I, but maybe he was like too much for Saturday Night Live. Do you know what I mean? Because he's so at the end of this, he's just wild, So maybe they needed him in a place that was also kind of wild, like because everyone on In Living Color was kind of just nuts.
Yeah,
and in a perfectly good way.
In the perfect way. But that's like something too. It's like where you look at someone like Jim Carrey going, "Wow, I can't believe you were passed up." Yeah, and he could have easily, from that one part of rejection, just be like, "I'm not going back out now." And it's like we would have lost such a great talent there.
Oh, we absolutely would have. Yeah. Did you know what else? Speaking of which, Lucille Ball failed out of Juilliard.
I didn't know that.
How can you she's a gifted comedian, so how do you...
She's so good. She actually was she was a model on the cigarette boxes out in New York.
That's cool.
And a producer in Los Angeles was like, get me all of those women that are in the cigarette boxes. And they shipped them on out there because he wanted them in the backgrounds of his movies for a vibe. And so she did that for years, had an affair with a producer.
Oh, boy.
And who was married and was like, I need to go. And she ended up going into radio. And it was when she hit radio that people started to see that she was funny.
Yeah.
And she used to talk about how she had these long limbs. And so she, it was Judy Garland's mom that coached her for like 8 years.
Oh, cool.
Trying to be like, I think Ginger Garland was her name or something. But she was like, it's okay. You can do it. Just be still. Stop being so goofy in a sense. And when she hit radio, she was able to be her own self. Oh. And then she always had this idea of doing a sitcom of her with her and her husband. Oh. And they kept saying, you're not a traditional American family. He's Cuban. We're not going to show that on TV.
And then they went and did it in theaters, and the audiences in the theaters liked it. That was like their testing ground, their training ground. That is the bread of America. Like, will it play in Peoria? Yes, it plays in Peoria, so we're going to put it on TV.
Yes. Isn't that fascinating?
It's awesome. It's awesome how they made that work out.
Yes.
Like, really.
And it was the time, too, because TV was just starting to come on out where they needed a lot of programming, and the studios were losing some of their actors, and so the studios ended up saying, none of our actors are allowed to do television. We have them under contract.
Oh.
So then the TV was having a hard time finding any actors to do their stuff. And so one of her friends said, fine, look, you guys are you're being successful here on the theater thing. We'll put you on up because we need to fill it in. And it was an instant hit.
That's awesome.
I love Lucille Ball.
Me too. Go girl.
Our little tangent on that from Jim Carrey.
I can keep talking on that because I loved how smart her husband was too. He's the one who thought of the 3-camera system rather than being so one-dimensional. He wanted to show it as a real person.
Yeah.
Like you can see from 3 angles.
Yeah.
That's so smart.
It's so smart. And I think he did it too for a time efficiency because he had his band. The Coco, whatever the band is that he's a part of. I know. I can see the building there in New York too that he would go to.
Let's just call it the Desi Arnaz experience.
Yes. But they wanted to film faster, and so they thought if we can get multiple angles and get the shots, then we won't have to be here all day, and then he would be able to do his music at night.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, I thought he was just like a smart guy, but it's also for convenience too.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question about Saturday Night Live is the youngest cast member of Saturday Night Live was 17 years old.
Yes.
Who was it?
I can't believe I know all this. This is so sick of me.
No,
I'm sick.
It's awesome.
It's I did research for the job I want. It'd be Pete Davidson, without a doubt. No, it's not Pete. No. It's Eddie Murphy. Is it not Eddie Murphy?
It's kind of an I thought that it was Pete Davidson too.
Yeah, but he must have been 18 or 19. And I know Eddie Murphy had his 21st birthday on there.
Oh, so it's not either one of those guys. It's kind of a more it's a guy I hadn't really heard much of myself.
Who is it?
Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh,
Have you ever heard of him?
He
was in the Breakfast Club.
He was 17.
Mm-hmm. And he got cast on there, which is pretty awesome.
Gosh, how fun.
I know. Could you imagine that's like you're just in high school or just out of high school?
Oh, I would love it. I would have loved it. Like, ruin me, please. Yes.
I don't know where he's at now, but good job, Anthony Michael Hall, for getting on there. Yeah.
So cool.
Okay. And I'm sure that you have heard, probably, that Alec Baldwin has hosted Saturday Night Live more than any other person. He's hosted it for the most times. Do you know how many times that he's done it?
Ooh.
It's not a big number. Like, I thought, my first guess was 40. It's not 40.
Okay.
But it's not one either.
How many times did he host it? And it's the most.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Tom Hanks has done it like 11 times, and so is like Steve Martin. Isn't there like the 11 Timers Club?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say like I'm gonna go with 17.
Oh, you're so close. It's 18.
I almost said it. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna go down one. Oh, I became so close.
You did.
I became so close. I was like, no, I'll say 17 instead.
No, don't worry. Trust your instincts.
Oh, wow. How fun. And then he got to be like that reoccurring character for Trump for so long.
He did a good job.
He did a great job.
He was
fun.
He was ridiculously stupid in that role.
Yes.
Like, just, oh my gosh. He just... Yeah. And the last question is... the youngest ever guest host on Saturday Night Live was Drew Barrymore.
Oh, cute.
Yes, when she was a kid. How old was she when she guest hosted? You're never going to believe that. I'm like baffled that she could do it at this age.
Wow. But... See, my first instinct is... All right, hold on. I'm going to say two numbers here. My first instinct is 6, but I'm going to say she was like 9. Oh. Because I think it was like when it's either between E.T. or that Firestarter movie. Is probably when it was. And I think she was 6 in E.T. Or was she
It
younger?
says that she was 7 when she hosted it.
Wow, there it is again right there in the middle. 7. Wow, 7 years old.
Can you believe... I mean, most kids are not hosting a show when they're 7.
Wow.
That's great,
I can't believe they had her do that.
I'm surprised.
Me
I don't
too.
know who put her up to it, but she did it.
Because I'm like, what sketches do you put a child in? And like notoriously, like the cast members and the writers are all up on cocaine.
Yeah.
Especially during that time. If John Mulaney's special has told us anything, it is about the drug use a lot in SNL.
I did not see that special, but I have read and looked into a lot of John Belushi stuff because I've always loved John. And
phenomenal.
So I heard the stories through that, you know, end of the Vine. And, you know, if a person can do it while they're on that, as long as... I'm not condoning that, but what I'm saying is, I suppose in the long run, as long as you get your job done.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do it myself.
No. It's like, what was the show Mad Men, right? Where they were all just drinking all those ad people. I was like, well, I guess if you could get it done.
Yeah. But it's probably better with a clear mind, you know?
Yes.
Well, anyway, you guys, we have reached the end, and I have loved having Marissa Chastain here so much. It's been so swell to see you. After having not seen you, how many years? 8 years?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I hope that we do more stuff together, like the Red Robin commercial that we did. It was so much fun. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the audience to advertise your show or to tell people where they can get you and listen in?
Yes, please support your local theaters and comedians. Go to open mics, go see it. There's so much talent out there, and we just need people to listen. And then you can follow me on Instagram, Marissa Comedy, or look up Trash Panda Comedy. The Trash Panda Comedy, because if you don't put the there, you might get the baseball team out in Los Angeles. Or like somewhere in California, the Trash Pandas.
Funny. Oh, you have a competition with the baseball team.
They have a great logo, too. A raccoon coming out of a trash can.
That's perfect. Like he's peeking out.
Yes, but we are the Trash Panda Comedy. And you can see all of our fun sketches there. And hopefully you'll see us on TV soon.
Yes. And how do you spell Marissa for the people who look you up like that?
Yes, it will be Marissa Comedy.
Oh, perfect. Everyone, this has been Marissa Chastain. Bye.
Bye.
This has been the Golden Hour podcast with your host, Anna Gold. We invite you to come back next time for more laughs, fascinating guests, and most importantly, movie trivia. Think of her next time you watch The Sunset or chug a V8. Don't forget to find her on Instagram and take a peek at her profile on IMDb. Until next time, stay golden.